Hi everyone, I'm Marcus Voss from AXO, and today I'm going to tell you how you can structure the infrastructure and operations domain in the form of a reference architecture, which tasks belong to it, and how DevOps fits in here. We remember, in the video with the introduction to software engineering, I already briefly talked about DevOps, about the basic idea of integrating development and operation, and the control loop character that arises in the process. The well-known DevOps 8 with the 4 dev core processes. Plan, code, build, and test, as well as the 4 ops core processes. Release, deploy, operate, and monitor illustrates exactly that. Now let's take a closer look at these processes. Let's start with the dev task area, in the classic sense of the word, with the development of the actual software. The artifact we are concerned with here is therefore the application software, or, with reference to the architectural views or viewpoints, the A&T architecture. This is planned in software engineering, that means analyzed and designed in terms of its requirements, and then implemented or coded. In terms of the DevOps 8, these are the first 2 core processes, plan and code from dev. And in terms of classic software engineering, these are also the central core processes. Accordingly, we also deal with them intensively in the other domains, specifically requirements and analysis, architecture and design, as well as implementation. For the infrastructure and operations domain considered here, the first important insight is that application infrastructure is nowadays developed in the same way as software. Keyword infrastructure as code. This means that modern infrastructure development is an analogous and parallel engineering discipline to the development of software, with analogous subtasks of analysis and design, that is plan, and implementation, that is code. The artifact around which everything revolves is not the application software, but the application infrastructure, or, with reference to the architectural views or viewpoints, the TI architecture. Within the infrastructure, a distinction can be made between the application itself and the platform required for it, with layers such as container managers, middleware such as database, messaging or streaming, as well as the operating system, network, etc. The platform can also be used as a platform for the application. Interesting topics in this area, for which there may also be relevant best practices, are, for example, those for engineering activities analogous to the software side, for example, how to write good infrastructure code, or the topic of providing different environments, for example, for dev, stage, and prod, and what has proven successful in this. As for the common technologies and tools in this task area, we are talking about the languages like Terraform or CloudFormation, container managers like Kubernetes, and CM tools like Puppet, Chef, Ansible, or SaltStack. The second important task area in our infrastructure and operations domain is now the automation of the tasks that follow coding, namely integration or build, automated testing, packaging, and finally deployment. Keyword CI/CD. With a view to the DevOps 8, build and test from the dev area are involved here, as well as release and deploy from the ops area. CI/CD thus connects the 2 aforementioned worlds of software and infrastructure development, and all the tasks mentioned also apply to both types of code, software and infrastructure. And deployment is precisely the last step that transports the application software from the left into the application layer of the application infrastructure from the right. Interesting topics in this area, for which there may also be relevant best practices, are, for example, pipelining, the topic of repositories and artifact versioning in general, if we do not already want to assign this to the domain of implementation or the registry. And as far as common technologies and tools are concerned, we are of course talking about multi-pose tools like GitLab, as well as container software like Docker, CI tools like Jenkins, CD tools like Argo or Flux, packaging solutions like Helm, repositories like Artifactory, or registries like AWS ECR or Azure ACR. The third task area is, of course, operations itself, the operation of the software. This firstly involves operate. That means the actual operation, whereby this does not only have to refer to the software running on the application level of the infrastructure on the right, but can optionally also include the entire infrastructure, including the platform. Then, secondly, it is also about monitor. That means the issue of monitoring the running solution. And thirdly, it is also about the organizational aspects of the core processes, release and deploy, already addressed technically within CI/CD. In connection with ops, it is also important how the engineering processes on the left for software and on the right for infrastructure are to be designed with a view to professional operation. Keyword dev for ops. Ops is therefore added here as an aspect of software and infrastructure development, analogous to other cross-cutting aspects such as security. Interesting topics in this area, for which there may also be relevant best practices, are observability, security, backup and recovery, as well as support, but also topics such as identity and access management, service level management, or everything to do with costs and contracts. Common technologies and tools in the area of operations for observability are, for example, the LK stack, that is Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, or Grafana, and for monitoring and alerting, for example, Prometheus, including the Alert Manager. DevOps, in the sense of the task of integrating development and operation, can now be written cross-sectionally about everything, as the last element of the reference architecture. In this sense, the reference architecture could also be understood as a reference architecture for DevOps, because all the areas addressed last play a decisive role. Software development or Dev, infrastructure development or IAC, process automation or CI/CD, and operations or Ops are interrelated, as shown in the reference architecture. And along the numbering, we present you the individual best practices in the following videos. And in the next video, Marcus Rickert will be the first to tell you about DevOps best practices. Until then.